Have you ever wondered about the history of Superman? Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman! That familiar mantra is more than just a nostalgic catchphrase. It's the birth cry of modern superhero storytelling. Since his debut in 1938, Superman has become an enduring symbol of hope, truth, and more recently, a fascinating evolution of myth and pop culture. But how did this cape-wearing alien refugee from Krypton become such a towering icon? Let's take a leap, not quite a single bound, but close, through time and uncover the amazing, bizarre, and sometimes controversial history of Superman. Welcome to History Wonder. Before he was a comic book icon, Superman was just an idea, one that bounced around in the minds of two nerdy teenagers from Cleveland, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. In the early 1930s, Siegel, a writer, and Shuster, an artist, were high school friends who loved pulp magazines, science fiction, and comic strips. In 1933, they self-published a story titled The Reign of the Superman. But plot twist, this Superman was a villain with telepathic powers. The concept bombed, but the idea stuck. A few iterations later, they flipped the concept into a hero who stood for justice and wore an eye-catching blue and red suit. Their vision, a bulletproof man from another world who protected the weak and punished the wrongdoers. After years of rejection, they finally sold their creation to National Allied Publications, the company that would later become DC Comics. Sold it for just $130. Ouch. In Action Comics #1, published in June 1938, Superman made his first official appearance, and comics were never the same again. Superman wasn't just the first superhero, he became the blueprint. His origin, an alien sent from a dying planet who was raised by kindly earthly parents, was unlike anything readers had seen. He could lift cars, leap skyscrapers, and withstand gunfire. Oh, and he wore his underwear on the outside, a fashion statement that would spark debates for decades. As the world plunged into World War II, Superman became a patriotic symbol. He battled Nazis, Japanese saboteurs, and domestic crooks. His motto, truth, justice, and the American way, was born out of wartime propaganda, but would later grow into a more universal idea. In 1941, Superman became the first superhero to get his own radio show with Bud Collyer, voicing Clark Kent and the Man of Steel. The show introduced classic elements like kryptonite and even helped fight racism, famously exposing the real-life Ku Klux Klan in a series of episodes. The Fleischer Studios animated shorts from 1941 to 1943 added stunning visuals and iconic catchphrases. These animations arguably featured better effects than many live-action adaptations for years. By the 1950s, Superman had become a household name, thanks in part to the Adventures of Superman TV show, starring George Reeves. This era saw Superman's mythos expanding rapidly, sometimes in bizarre directions. Kryptonite wasn't the only thing that could hurt Superman now. Writers introduced red kryptonite, which causes weird side effects, gold kryptonite, which removes powers, and even pink kryptonite, a cheeky 2003 one-off that temporarily altered Superman's behavior in ambiguous ways. And that was just the beginning of the weirdness. We met Krypto the Superdog, Supergirl, his cousin Kara Zor-El, and a parade of quirky characters like Bizarro, Brainiac, Mr. McSplick, and even the Legion of Superheroes, a futuristic teen superhero club that idolized Superman. Writers like Otto Binder and Mort Weisinger turned Superman's universe into a mythological sandbox, full of strange worlds, alternate timelines, and super everything. Superman even gained the ability to shoot mini Supermans out of his hands. Yeah, that happened. But not all was sunshine and super dogs. Behind the scenes, Siegel and Shuster battled DC Comics for rights to Superman, ultimately losing the legal war and living much of their lives in relative obscurity and financial difficulty. As the 1970s rolled in, comics tried to grow up. Superman's stories started to tackle more serious issues: war, corruption, and overpopulation. The character was reimagined by writers like Danny O'Neill and Elliot S. Megan, who struggled to humanize the godlike alien. Then came 1978, and with it, the cinematic turning point, Superman the movie, directed by Richard Donner and starring Christopher Reeve. With its tagline, "You'll believe a man can fly," the film resurrected Superman's status as a pop culture juggernaut. Reeve's performance struck the perfect balance, bumbling sweet Clark Kent and commanding noble Superman. The movie embraced myth, heart, and hope, and became the definitive Superman story for many fans. Yet in comics, Superman's powers had ballooned to absurd levels. He could time travel by flying fast enough, move planets, and survive supernovas. Readers struggled to connect with an unbeatable god. Enter Crisis on Infinite Earths, 1985 to 86, a massive reboot that reshaped the DC universe. Superman was due for a serious overhaul. John Byrne's The Man of Steel in 1986 redefined Superman for a new generation. He was now less godlike, more grounded. Krypton became a sterile, emotionless world. Clark Kent became a real person. Superman was the disguise. The reboot aimed to humanize the Man of Steel without stripping him of his nobility. The late 80s and 90s were a roller coaster. Superman got engaged to Lois Lane. He battled new enemies like Doomsday. And in 1992, a move that shocked the world, Superman died. That's right, the death of Superman, the Man of Steel, perished in a brutal brawl with Doomsday, making headlines around the globe. Fans lined up and around the block for black-bagged copies of the issue. And he got better a few months later, of course. The 90s also gave us Electric Blue Superman, don't ask, the animated masterpiece, Superman the Animated Series, and the long-running TV show Lois and Clark with Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher. Superman was everywhere, sometimes great, sometimes weird, but always iconic. As the comics entered the 2000s, writers continued to wrestle with the balance between myth and man. Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman in 2005 to 2008 became an instant classic, a poetic, strange, and beautiful exploration of what Superman means. It portrayed him as a god who chooses to be kind, to save people, to inspire. If you only ever read one Superman comic, make it that one. Meanwhile, the DC Universe went through reboot after reboot. Infinite Crisis, Flashpoint, New 52, Rebirth. Each one tweaking Superman's origin, costume, and tone. Fans were both thrilled and confused. Was he married to Lois? Did they have a son? Was Krypton crystalline or not? Continuity became a Kryptonian headache. In live action, Superman's image shifted. Superman Returns in 2006 was a moody, nostalgic sequel to the Reeve films. Then came Henry Cavill's Superman and Man of Steel in 2013, Batman vs. Superman in 2016, and Zack Snyder's Justice League in 2021. These versions presented a more conflicted, burdened Superman, divisive among fans but undeniably epic in scope. On TV, Smallville from 2001 to 2011 told a decade-long origin story of Clark Kent, blending teen drama with Kryptonian legacy. In recent years, shows like Superman and Lois have balanced action and family life with surprising emotional weight. And in 2025, James Gunn's upcoming Superman Legacy promises yet another fresh take on the character, aiming to capture both the mythic and the human sides of the hero. For a guy who's been around for 85 years, Superman is still remarkably relevant. Why? Because he embodies possibility. He's the immigrant story, a story of someone who could dominate the world but chooses compassion over control. He's the hope that power doesn't have to corrupt and that it can be used for good. In a world that often feels cynical, Superman is sincere, unapologetically good, and that makes him revolutionary. He might not always be the coolest hero in the room. He doesn't brood on rooftops or throw batarangs. But when the chips are down and the skies are dark, it's Superman who shows up and lifts us up. From pulp pages to radio waves, silver screens to streaming shows, Superman has flown through every medium imaginable. He's been rebooted, parodied, deconstructed, and resurrected more times than we can count. But no matter the version, at the heart of every story is the simple truth. Superman represents the best of us. And in times of trouble, we need that more than ever. So the next time you hear a sonic boom overhead and see a red cape billowing in the wind, just maybe look up, because somewhere out there, the Man of Steel is still flying. Thanks for watching. What topics in history have you wondered about? Comment below and let us know what videos you would like to see, and be sure to like and subscribe.